Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Julie Santiago here. I am here with the beautiful and wonderful Nicole. We've got a new show today, and Nicole is one of our incredible client success stories. Nicole, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's going to be wonderful. And for those of you who do join us live or are listening to us later, just welcome me in welcoming Nicole, because Nicole has been on one heck of a journey over these past handful of months, and she's lived through it all and has some very hard-earned wisdom to share with us. So I want to start, Nicole, like we always kind of start of like where you were, and I know where you were, you know where you were, but could you tell the ladies not too long ago, right? So less than 6 months ago, when you reached out to us, you've gone through a tremendous restoration, a tremendous transformation. Where were you? Where were you? What's your before? Tell us and paint us a picture of what life was like when you came to us and you were struggling.
Yeah, so I was about 6 months ago in a job that I actually really enjoyed. I loved the type of role I was in. I liked the people I was working with, but I was working 80 to 90-hour weeks consistently. So that meant I could leave work to go pick up my kids and eat dinner with my family and put them to bed, but I'd log in every night and work past midnight. I'd work every weekend. I was always connected. I had emails on my phone that I was checking regularly. I just had no boundaries really with regards to work, and so I was not getting enough sleep because that was the place that I could really give up when I wasn't willing to give up the time that I did have with my kids and with my husband. But that was really wearing on me. I didn't have the capacity to really respond to my emotions well. I was short, I was frustrated, I was exhausted, and I felt like I was breaking. And I knew I needed to change something because I was just too tired. I felt like I was surviving my life and not living it. I wasn't feeling present with my kids or with my husband, because even if I was with them, I was thinking about whatever email I had just read on my phone or what I needed to be doing and wasn't doing, instead of just really enjoying the time that I had with them. I wasn't comfortable taking a weekend off, so I wasn't comfortable planning trips to go anywhere. We had a number of trips we wanted to plan, and I kept putting it off because I just didn't see space in my calendar to take it. So I was feeling like I was close to burning out, or was already burning out, close to breaking, really.
Yeah, I really like that you said that. I felt like I was breaking. That's such a powerful. That's so powerful. That's such a powerful example of like how rough things were. Now, I want to be really honest, because you know this about yourself. I know this about you. Anybody listening, you are an incredibly capable, highly successful, badass, professional, corporate woman. You're a mom of 2 kids, right? You're a wife. You've been in this industry for over a decade. How long do you think, like, would you say you'd been living like this that led to the breaking point?
So it started probably 4 years ago. So my son is almost 4 and my daughter is almost 2. So right after my son was born, we got a new CEO and culture started changing. It wasn't as bad for the first 3 years because I was more of a project-based role. So I'd have probably 6 months of this type of level of stress at work, and then I'd have a break and I'd kind of recharge and then go at it again. But starting in September, I got a promotion. And at the same time, we got a hiring freeze, so I wasn't allowed to fill a position in my role. And so I was really just taking on more and more and put more pressure on myself because it was a promotion as well. Some of the power pitfalls, I'm definitely a perfectionist. I'm definitely a pleaser and an overfunctioner. So I was desperately trying to perhaps prove myself kind of every day. And so since September, it became more consistent that it was 80 to 90 hour weeks. And then even just the last month before I really came to the conclusion that it wasn't for me anymore. It was even more. So it's been a long time coming. But I haven't had a break since September even, where before I'd had some time to recharge.
Yeah, totally. So what you're saying is so interesting, because you came to us at a point where you're like, this is absolutely unsustainable. And there had been different layers of things that made it unsustainable. I'm going to go back in a second to the power pitfalls that you mentioned and how it contributed to your problem. And then we'll talk about where you are now, right? Because you're no longer in that job. You've cut your workload in half. You're making just about the same amount of money, correct? More. You're making more money working half the time. So we're going to talk about where you are in just a second, okay? Because it's so beautiful. But you mentioned a couple things. So you were working 80 to 90 hour weeks, work until midnight, spending an hour, two maybe with your family. You were sacrificing your sleep. You were exhausted. You weren't performing as well. You were short. You were impatient. You were imbalanced. You were exhausted. You were quick to get frustrated. I remember you saying that in one of our sessions. You were quick to get frustrated, angry. And part of it was the job, right? Mm-hmm. In your case, the answer was to leave your job, right? And that's true for about half the women we work with. And for some women, it's not true. I'm curious, you mentioned the power pitfalls. So for those people who don't know what the power pitfalls are, Nicole, how would you explain? You don't need to list them all, but like, what would you explain them? How would you explain them? And like, why do you think knowing about them has been so important in your path?
Well, I'll say that I'll kind of plug your webinar a bit. I was on Facebook one night and the webinar kind of popped up and it said it was intended for high achieving women who are feeling burnt out and ready to burn it down. And I was like, you know who I am. You've called me. It came to me. I didn't find you in your program. You found me in a moment where I really needed it. And then that's where I learned about the power pitfalls. At first, and what got me was that it was, you might think it's your situation that's leading you to feel burnt out, but if you don't first address your own habits, your own patterns, and what's driving you, then you might take those same patterns and habits to your next job and create the same environment that led to your burnout. And that was something that I really didn't want to do. And truly, I did love the job that I was at, and I was motivated by a lot that was still there and the people that were there. So if there was a way for me to stay, I wanted to try that out first as well. But I knew about myself, especially when seeing what they were listed. I was like, yep, I can definitely see where I'm contributing to doing more than perhaps even I need to be doing.
I love that. I love the way you just described that. So for everybody listening, I just want to make sure that you heard what Nicole said, that it's what it is these 6 to 8 power pitfalls. It's where high achieving women, they've used them, these things, these pitfalls, as a way to achieve and get ahead their whole lives. It's the qualities that led to their success, and it's also the qualities that will lead to your downfall, that may be contributing to the burnout, right, etc. And so, Nicole, you said you knew you were the people pleaser. That's one of them. You knew you were the overfunctioner. That's like the strong one who does everything. The perfectionist as well. So those are 3 of them. We'll, of course, put the link to the webinar in the comments below. Nicole, when you started working with those, would you say, like, how did that shift for you? Like, when you started recognizing your part, right? Because we know that the job wasn't right for you, so you ended up leaving the job and finding this incredible, like, times 100 situation. But why was it important for you to learn about these pitfalls? Like, how did that change things for you?
Well, it was also about learning that I have a choice in everything. I think that was really powerful for me. I could sit there and say, I'm working 80 to 90 hours. I need to do this. I have to do this. It's, well, I may want to keep my job. And so to do that, I might make the choice to do certain things. But what I started recognizing was I was taking on some work that perhaps wasn't mine to own, and finding the right ways to either choose to keep it or choose to ask others to do it. And in those moments where I was choosing to do it or choosing to take it a step further because I like it done a certain way, in those moments, I recognized I was choosing and I felt better about it. Like I even used I think it was the day before things started falling in line for me to leave, I had chosen to stay in the office until a really late hour because we were almost done with the process. There was 3 of us there. And I remember feeling really good about it. I was in the office until 1 a.m., but I knew the next day I was almost done and I was feeling good about the work that I had put in. And that one of my coaching questions was about what to do before a big process that was going to take a lot of time. And so I was looking forward to downshifting and being able to do that. And so that choice for me, that was a big shift for me early on, was just recognizing everything for myself was a choice. And I could choose it. And then one of the ways that I helped remind myself in those moments was something that Grace said in her hypnosis is I am safe, I'm calm, I choose to be here. And so I would say that to myself in a lot of different situations. And it was a good way to kind of reground myself and decide which way I wanted to go. I think I also have 3 cards still pulled out from the deck that you gave us, and one of them is I should go look at them. I choose what I want to do every day, or I can choose what feels right for me every day, and that's a reminder to me that I'm choosing, and I can choose to work those hours, and I can choose when it feels right for me and my family.
I am so glad you brought up this idea of choice. We haven't talked about choice in one of these client interviews before ever. And I literally I just want you to see the sticky note that is written right here. Choice.
Yeah.
Your life is totally your choice, whether you stay at the job, whether you don't. So I'm gonna push back on this question, because I know if I had told you that 6 months ago, you probably would have had a lot of good reasons that you didn't have a choice. Because we hear that a lot. Women who don't realize that they're overgiving, or don't realize that they actually have poor boundaries, or don't realize they may have control issues and they're doing everything because they don't want to let go of control or don't trust others in order to delegate. So to somebody who's listening to this right now who's like, screw you, like, I don't have a choice. Like, I have this job, I have these responsibilities, like, you know where I'm going with this, right? What would you say to that? What would you say? And this is a tricky question, so I'm not expecting, like, I'm really genuinely curious. Like, what did you have to learn about yourself and about just choice in general to realize that, like, you were actually in control of your life?
So I would say a lot of times too, in saying like, oh, I have to do this, there's a negative connotation with that. Like, oh, I don't really want to do this, but I'm doing it anyways, type of deal. And so in learning that I had a choice, it was really making me step back and ask my own motivations for why I'm doing it. I might be doing it because I don't want to lose my job. And that's a fair reason to do something. Totally. But also recognizing there's different levels in getting that job done. There's, going way above and beyond, or doing what you need to do to maintain it. So for me, it was really just recognizing it's okay to choose to work a lot too. It's okay to choose the thing that you're saying right now you might not really like doing, because once you step back and kind of look at your motivations for it, maybe it's okay. I may still choose to work a little bit harder on one particular thing that I'm working on because I care about it, or I may choose not to. Even in my new job, I think the thing that I'm going to be cognizant about is when I'm choosing to work more. Is it something that I'm taking the opportunity to go above and beyond for, or is it because I feel like I can't get my job done? And then that's an instance where I'm going to raise it up and talk to my boss about balance. If it's something because I really want to put a little bit more in my personal time, then I may choose to do that. So it's really just recognizing what my motivations are for it. And just reprioritizing what those are.
Huge.
To be in line with what I say my priorities are as well.
That's so huge. So what you're saying, and I want everybody to hear this, is that everything is a choice. Mm-hmm. You can choose to work 15 hours a day until midnight if you want to. You can choose to stay in this shitty job. You can choose to take on other people's work. You can choose to say no. You can it's all a choice. Right? But what I hear you saying, it's like the first step you took, and tell me if this is right, especially when you were in the program to shift this, the first step you took in being aware of choice, right, was to be aware of your patterns, right, or these power pitfalls, and to notice what your motivation is. Are you acting from that place of like, I want to be the people pleaser, I'm the overfunctioner, or are you acting from a genuine place of like, this motivates me and this feels good? So you mentioned priorities for you. Would you want to say anything about priorities, about how you were able to get clear on your priorities during the program so that you could then filter your decisions through those priorities? Because a lot of high achieving women may say their priorities are their family or their health or whatever they are, but 90% of their lives are taken over by work, which was the case when you joined us. So how did you identify your real priorities, and then how did you start shifting to match that?
Yeah, and so I even said to you in our breakthrough call, we had a speaker at my company that had talked about like dividing up like your time in a pie, and is that really the balance that you want? And I remember telling my husband on so many occasions, like, hey, you and the kids are my priorities, even though it may not seem like it because all of my time is going towards work. And so I think I always knew what my priorities were, but then how did I get caught up in this cycle at work? And then how do I, align my energy to my actual priorities so that kind of filtering that through, yes, I want a job to be able to provide the type of life I want for my family. So some of that time that I spend at work is for my family, is towards my priorities. But then as soon as it gets too far, then it's no longer serving that priority, and kind of looking at being able to realign. I'm a competitive person. It's hard for me, not to get caught up in things. And so to step back and then ask that question, how is this serving me? How is this serving the vision that I have for my life? Is it getting closer to it, or is it taking me further away from what I want and what's going to make me more content and more peaceful?
You guys, did everybody hear that? That was so powerful. Thank you, Nicole, for sharing that like those two questions of like filtering everything through. Yeah, like you're an ambitious woman. Every single woman I work with. We had a conversation on our call, which unfortunately you're not on anymore because you've graduated, but we had our call this week and somebody was asking the difference between, what is the difference between ambition and overachieving? Because you are an ambitious woman. I am an ambitious woman. Everyone that was in your program, that is in our program, is an ambitious woman. Like we are here to do something, right? Whatever that is. And so how is it that you can live that ambition without burning out, right? And really, really return to balance, right? And what I heard you say that I want to make sure everybody writes down for yourself as an actionable thing is you get to ask yourself the question, how is this serving me? And will this get me closer to my vision or further away? One of the ways we do that in the program is that, you look at your big rocks, what are your main priorities? And then you make all your decisions based on, does this bring me closer to them or further away? So for those of you who aren't in the program, you get to ask yourself just the simple question, right? If you know what your priorities are, then it's simply, is this bringing me closer to them or further away from them, right? And for some people, your priority may be, I want to pay off all my debt and I need to make $500,000 in order to do that, right? I'm just making this up, right? And that may be the most important thing in your life, right? But what we found is that, what are your big rocks? Will you share them, Nicole? Do you remember what your big rocks are?
Yeah, it's family first, my health, my own wellness, including spirituality, connecting with people, and traveling.
Yep. And so you're an ambitious woman and you make good money and you have a great career and you've got a lot of responsibility, and that's not on your big rocks. Your work serves those big rocks, right? And that's what we found. It's like that's, for the most part, family is on almost everyone's priority list, but somehow or another we veer left. So what was the first thing you did to veer back? If you, I mean, it may be hard to remember, but do you remember like the first moment you realized that like you chose yourself, you chose those priorities?
Yeah, I took work email off my phone. So I didn't necessarily know how to work less hours yet, but I knew that at least the hours I wasn't choosing to work, I wasn't going to think about it to the same extent. So every time I looked at my email, I wasn't seeing work email and then getting sidetracked by that. So that was I did that almost immediately when I joined the program, and it was huge for me to just have that much space back.
That is a huge choice. That is a choice that you made of like, I get to choose to disconnect. And that's hard. That's hard for a lot of people. I remember when you said that, you inspired half the group to do the same thing. And what about the time, do you remember the first time that you were like, I didn't work over the weekend? Do you remember that?
I don't remember specifically which one, but yeah, it feels weird.
Yeah.
I have so much time. I think probably spent the time outside with my kids a lot.
Yep. It was like you're like, I didn't look at email. I didn't work all Saturday, all Sunday. I want to talk about where you are right now, because I mean, I think you've just given us an awesome picture of where you were and some of the first steps you started to take on the journey to return to balance. Where are you now? And then we'll talk about how you got there. But what does life look like for you right now, hon?
Yeah, so I have a very similar type job. So it's still in corporate finance. It's still at a corporation in the healthcare industry, but it's a company that really has better balance, better culture. Already, I've been there 2 weeks now, and already I can tell how much they care about the employees and how much they're prioritizing people. And not just the bottom line, even the company and the products itself, they're focused towards products that typically didn't get much visibility. It's for rare diseases. And so there's just the definition of a rare disease is less than a number of patients. So it's not like you're going to hit, a wide number of people. And even in their mission statement, it says it's personal. And I felt that since day one, since I've been there. My boss, knowing what I had kind of gone through, she was my first boss at the last company as well. So she knew me and knew my work style and my work ethic. She told me on day one, you cannot work that much. She said, if you're working any more than 55 or 60 hours, you need to tell me immediately. And she said, and that's not even the normal, that you should be working only in the heavier cycle. So normally you should only work 40 to 45 hours. And now she's actually told me that twice in 2 weeks to make sure that I really heard it.
Yeah. You hear this? You get this? You will not be working more than a normal person should. Okay, awesome. Keep going.
Yeah, and then in a meeting that I had with senior leaders at the company just this week, it came out that somebody from my team had sent out an email at 11 o'clock. He said, I got this email at 11. He's like, if we need to push the deadline back a day, he's like, he should be spending time with his family. He should be sleeping. I don't need that at 11 o'clock. I'm not going to see it that late. So that shouldn't be the priority. And that was huge to me. I'd never heard anything like that at the last company. In fact, I'd heard the opposite. When we tried to hire a consulting company to help us with something, the answer was, well, I'm not seeing them here till 10 o'clock every night. And I remember just feeling blown away, like, I don't think we should be seeing them here every day until 10 o'clock. And now I was blown away in a more positive way that in one of my first meetings with these folks, that's the priority, is your family and your health and yourself as an individual, and that we can adjust if we need to, or we can relook at the timelines.
So you basically found a job that checks all the boxes of your priorities and your big rocks. The things you just said. You found a company that prioritizes your family, your health, and yourself, which are your first three big rocks. So you were able to find a culture that matched that. So you're working, how many? 50 hours a week? No more than 55?
Yeah, no more than 55. It's only been the first 2 weeks, so I'm probably only working about 40 hours right now.
Cool. So you cut your job hours more or less in half. You're making more money. You're not working weekends? Are you working weekends?
I'm not working weekends. I've even asked in kind of the heavier cycles if they do, and they say sometimes, but it doesn't seem to be the requirement. So I will see once we get there.
What's it been like? I'm curious what it's been like with your husband and with your kids. Like, how do you think they've noticed the difference?
I'm sure they have. With the kids, it's harder to tell because my daughter's so young. But there's definitely more balance in what we're doing at home, and it's kind of hard to shift back to because my husband's just taken so much on and has done so much. So it's harder for me to start changing my own habits and taking some of that work back. But we're feeling the difference. We have brought a lot of what I've learned here and what I've read into our lives. So when we put my son to bed every night, we ask him what he's grateful for. Most nights he says it's something, poop related because he's in that mind frame right now. But every once in a while he really surprises me with something adorable. So my husband, my son, and I do that every night. I couldn't seem to get through my feelings challenge with you for a while. And so as soon as that was over, my husband and I started doing feelings every night. So we found that was a good way for us to stop and kind of connect with each other because we've been going through just more of the motions of what do we need to get done for dinner or for the kids or for the rest of the week. And it wasn't really, well, what's going on with you? And we've really connected a lot through doing that. Some nights more than others. Some nights we're just kind of going through the motions with it, but it gives us an opportunity to stop and see each other. And so that one has been huge for us to just reconnect again, because I feel like this season of our lives with small children is going to be busy. It's going to be different than other seasons of our life, and just kind of figuring out how to stay connected and communicate through it. And so that's been a big change for us recently.
That's really powerful. So were you doing any of that before the program?
No.
Yeah. So all that's new, like deeper connection, talking about feelings more with your husband, sweetness, gratitudes with your son at night. There was a moment, I remember you shared this with me, that you had been really talking to your husband about a lot of the work that we do and in the program around what feminine leadership looks like, or vulnerable leadership, right? Like, what does it mean to really lead from not just the masculine but the feminine? And then he took some of what you were able to share with him into his job. Is there anything you want to share about that? Just like the impact of that for you, just like the trickle that you're starting to see in your own life from the work you've done on yourself and how that's spreading in other ways, professionally or personally.
Yeah, I mean, it was perhaps one of like the deeper conversations my husband and I have had in a while. And he was talking about how somebody at work had just kept bugging him, hey, this is a priority. Hey, this is important today. And he's like, I'm working on it. This is literally the thing that I'm working on right now. I can't work on it any faster. And he was getting really frustrated about it. And we were talking about it. And he goes, I know that she's a lot like you. She takes a lot on. She takes a lot of pride in what she's doing. And she's probably just feeling like a little anxious about it. And so when he said that, I was like, well, you're recognizing that in her. I was like, is there something that you could do or say that could be more vulnerable, that could help soften it, right? Where the way that you're receiving it is more, it's not helping either of you, right? Like, and so we talked through that, and it was kind of like, well, you could acknowledge her where she's at. Hey, I see that you're kind of anxious about this, and you're concerned that, it's not my top priority. How about we set check-ins, because I want to make sure that you're comfortable. And we were talking through different things that he could say, and then he went in the next day, and he did approach her in a more vulnerable way, and it was something different than we had talked about. But he said it ended up being a really good conversation with her, and it's something that he never would have done had we not had that conversation. And so I was really proud of him. And then even more recently, even in trying to be more conscious parents, I've been so proud of him too, because we've been talking about that a lot more, and how we want to respond to our children and what we want to say and how we want to discipline. And there was one night that my son, it was close to his bedtime, and he was acting out a bit. And I was kind of coming from the standpoint of, he seems tired, we should probably go to bed. But I said something more along the lines of, oh, maybe we just need to go upstairs. And kind of after the whole situation, he sat me down and said, hey, I noticed you said this twice tonight. I've never heard you say it before, but you're kind of making bedtime seem like a punishment. and I don't know that we want to equate bed with something negative. And so in that moment, I recognized I didn't love like that he was telling me that. But then when I could step back, I was like, he's got it. He's figured it out. He's not only recognizing it in me, but he's also found his voice where he's normally more go with the flow and don't stir the pot. And he raised it to me and he said it to me. And I told him a couple days later how proud I was of him. And he was like, thank you so much for saying that. So we're just sharing so much more with each other in that vulnerable space. And it's been really good.
Yeah, honey, that just I like feel the emotion of that. And like, I just feel how much of a shift that is. And just how tender that is, right? Yeah. To like really feel partnership with your husband and to be able to have him be your teacher and to have you be the teacher, right? And of course you're teaching your little ones at the same time. I mean, I remember when we had our initial call, when we did our breakthrough call, you knew you wanted to do this work for yourself, but it was deeper than that. Do you remember in your intention pledge, we the first week every woman really creates an intention pledge. Do you remember, I'm doing this for myself, and like, do you remember what your real intention was?
Yeah, it was to have more space and peace in my life, but to be more present for my husband and my kids and more connected with them. And the thing that still resonates with me was one of the other women in the program, Catherine. Everybody gets the opportunity to reflect back. And what she reflected back to me was this feeling that I wasn't doing good enough. And I think what she said to me was something along the lines of, you are perfect the way you are, or you are just the way you need to be. And kind of recognizing how much I was putting on myself at that time. And it resonated with me and stuck with me throughout.
What was your experience like being in the group with the other women, just since you brought that up? What was that experience like for you?
It was motivating. I love that type of communication. I like anytime I've had girls' nights or groups of people or discussions at work. So this type of environment really, you feel the energy and it really motivates me. And even if there were days that I didn't have questions or I didn't know what I wanted to talk about, you get so much out of what everybody else was asking and what they were learning and coming together. So it was a big energy, and you get to see people at different stages. So the women that were further ahead and especially right when I joined the program, of how happy and how much they were shining and just radiating that I was looking for, and then getting to be a little bit further along in the program of new people and kind of getting excited, like you're going to get there, and hoping all of that for them and seeing the struggles that I had gone through and that they're going through, and just you're right where you need to be, and you really feel that together, and it's a good community, and I can't wait to meet people and hug everybody.
Which will totally happen. We're planning that for 2020, so don't you worry.
You do feel a certain closeness with everybody because everybody's being a different level of vulnerable with each other in this group, because you have to show up in order to really get through. So you're seeing the most raw that everybody can really be.
Yeah. Why do you think that's so powerful, Nicole? Because this is one of the things that I believe will change the world. This is why I do this work. Why do you think it's so powerful to be with a group of high-powered, ambitious, achievement-oriented, successful women, and just to drop the armor and to be vulnerable and to be able to like be real with, virtual strangers who become family? Like, why is that so important in your opinion?
For a number of reasons. The first reason I think is really because you feel like you're so alone when you're going through some of these things. Like, oh, everybody else seems to be succeeding so well. Why am I struggling so much? Why is this so difficult for me? And so in going through it with other women, and we all have different situations, but varying ways that we all can relate to what we're going through, and you're not alone. And then the other way is that you really get this opportunity to practice it too, but it's in an environment where you trust and you feel not judged and welcomed, and so it's an easier kind of first step to start saying your truth.
Totally.
Out loud.
Totally. Absolutely. So I want everybody to really hear that, because whether or not you join this program, whether or not you're a good fit for it or not, doesn't really matter. We'll talk about that too. But what Nicole's saying is that you have to do this with a group. You can't do this on your own. Nicole, you had been trying to do it on your own or ignoring it for quite some time, right?
I've been in therapy for years. I tried, different therapists, multiple therapists. So I'd done therapy for a long time. I'd read certain books that now I'm rereading, and now mean more to me now, having gone through this. But yeah, I wasn't getting anywhere on my own.
What else had you done? So you'd done is there anything else? You had done therapy, you had read certain books, anything else that you had tried before?
Not specifically on this topic. I just knew I needed to do something for myself. In going through different challenges with both of my kids, I used different lactation consultants that worked well and didn't work well in certain ways, and so I'd done therapy on my own and couples therapy with my husband, which we still do, and has been amazing for us in working on our communication. So that had really been where I had focused. I had sometimes listened to some podcasts or sometimes read some books, but I just didn't really make any habit of it.
Totally. You didn't make a habit of it. You didn't make any headway. There wasn't accountability. There wasn't support. You didn't have the right system in some ways, right? So for all of you who are watching, who are listening, you've got to find the right system. You've got to find a mentor or a coach. You have to have support and accountability because you're going to want to bail. This was not an easy journey, right? Mm-hmm. It's like there will be times where you will want to quit. And what Nicole said is, and it has to be in the group. Like that's just, it's so impactful. And the reason it's so impactful is because number one, it takes away the shame. You don't feel so alone. And then number two, it's practice ground. It's a safe practice ground for you to start setting boundaries and to start expressing yourself and to start feeling your feelings and to start really shifting into balance, like learning how to balance all of this. The last thing that I want to ask you about, and then I'll have a final follow-up question. You, at the end of the program, you said, I have never really contemplated my purpose before, but now I know my purpose. Mm-hmm. That's a really big thing. What did you learn about yourself and your own purpose that felt so new?
So I guess I'd always kind of thought, what is the meaning of life was just kind of so philosophical, so big, something that we couldn't possibly ever really know. So I just never really spent much time thinking about it. And when it came up in the program that, our purpose is to be the light, to bring the light, and kind of how can you do that in every circumstance? And so I remember just listening to some of the other women and how they brought the light to work more, and how can I do that? How can I just be the light for every person that I meet? And then that can be my purpose. How do I build people up in those moments? And one of the things that I really learned about myself in this program that was really impactful was that we're all born whole, and exactly as we're meant to be, that there's nothing that needs fixing with me. And that was huge. I still have the picture of my little girl next to my bed, and it's a good reminder I was born perfectly whole and perfectly content, and different things happened in my life that taught me certain things, and made me learn certain ways of being, and I don't necessarily need to believe those things anymore. I can be the light, I can be content, and I can be happy, and I can have everything that I want. I just need to know what it is.
That's it. You said it all. And I really like the last part. I can be happy. I can have whatever I want. I just have to know what I want. Mm-hmm. And so many of us high achieving ladies are so busy just achieving for the sake of achieving. We don't really know what we want. We don't ever stop to say what are my priorities? What is meaningful? What does motivate me? What does matter? On a heart level, on a soul level, from our families to our communities. That was beautiful. Thank you so much, everybody. I would suggest you reverse back 2 minutes and watch that again and again and again and again. And what's true is that we are the leaders. Women are the leaders of our families. We're the leaders of our communities. We're the leaders of everything, but we've just been taught that we're not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really this reclamation of our power, this restoration of balance in our lives. And I've witnessed you do that so tremendously. And I know it's just the beginning for you. It's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. So if you were to share one final thing with maybe anybody who's watching, let's say she's a woman who, like you were when you came to us, she's struggling, she's working all the time, she feels like she's breaking, she feels like she's surviving life and not actually living it. What do you want her to know? What would you want to tell her?
That you're worth it. You're worth everything that you believe you could, or even that you don't believe you deserve or want in life. You're worth it. You just have to believe that, and then you have to be able to want to put in the work, because it's not easy to get there. If it was easy, we'd all be there. But there is a way, and there's a way through, and it's just kind of, for me, it was coming back to spirituality. I've had different phases of being spiritual or not being spiritual, and having more of that faith that life is working for you, and if you're putting out there your intention and what you want in life will help you get there. Just kind of trusting your intuition. That was a big lesson for me. In one of the first calls was somebody asking how to trust her intuition, and I remember the exercise you had her go through of imagining what the situation or question she had and what did her body respond, and your body doesn't lie. So if you step back and just say, this is the thing I'm contemplating, or this is where I'm at now, do you expand or do you contract? And I really felt that when I was going to interview for this new job. I drove there over the weekend, and I realized I had left shoes at my old job, so I turned around and went to the other place after, and I immediately couldn't catch my breath. My whole body felt like it contracted, and it was so clear. So trust your intuition, know that you deserve it, know that you're worthy, and you can get there.
Trust your intuition, know that you're worthy, know that you can get there, right? And be willing to put in the work. Mm-hmm. If it were easy, we'd all have it already. If balance were easy, if living a happy, joyful life where we had our work that mattered to us and a fulfilling family life and whatever else is important, right, to those of you watching, if that were simple, everyone would do it, right? It takes unconditioning, it takes unlearning, it takes reconditioning ourselves, right? And it takes being so committed to the future self, not the self you are now, not the self you've always been, but the future self, right? Mm-hmm. So for those of you watching, right, we may or may not be the right fit for you, but if there's anything in you that's like, could I be like Nicole? Could my story be some version of that, right? Could I find this new way to live and to work? I want you to go to this link right here, juliesantiago.com/talk, and book a breakthrough call, right? This was the first step Nicole took on her path. There were times on the call where I was like, can we help you? Can we not help you? What do you want? What are you struggling with? And I knew we could. I knew we could change her life. We only work with women whose success is a guarantee. And we'll get on the phone for about an hour, either me or someone from my team, and we'll just talk about your life, what's working, what's not working, and where you want to go. And if we can help you get there, we're going to tell you that. And if we can't, we're going to give you resources and we're going to send you on your way. So you'll get tremendous value no matter what. So go to juliesantiago.com/talk. And Nicole, you are such an incredible inspiration. Thank you for holding the light for everyone, for yourself first, and then for your family, and then for your work, and then for your community, and then for the world. Thank you. And thank you for sharing your wisdom on this call. It was so beautiful and so powerful.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I miss all the women.
Would you say that again?
I miss all the women.
I know.
I'm seeing you guys on Facebook, so.
I know. And we'll have our reunion call, of course, our alumni call in a week or so. And thank you for showing up so vulnerably, so bravely. And I cannot wait to see what unfolds, because it really is. It's just the beginning. So thank you, honey. Much love. And thank you all for listening and joining. And if you want to see if we can support you, definitely book a breakthrough call. All right? We'll talk to you soon. Bye.